Okay, I've got the thumbs up. Everyone is seated. Ladies and gentlemen, a very good morning to you. Excellencies, distinguished guests, welcome to the Commonwealth Trade and Investment Summit 2025. And what an interesting year it's turning out to be, for reasons we're all aware of and no doubt we'll get into throughout the course of the next 2 days. As always, we have an excellent roster of sessions and speakers to guide you throughout the day. One piece of housekeeping, no news to any of you in the room. Please put these to silent. If a absolutely must-take call comes through, you can always leave the room. Otherwise, let's try to keep disruptions to an absolute minimum. Anyway, without further ado, it's my pleasure to hand you over to Lord Marland of Odstock, the Chairman of the Commonwealth Enterprise and Investment Council, to get the day started in earnest. Lord Marland.
Thank you, Lanray. Thank you. Thank you. No, more. Come on, more. That's it. Yes. Actually, you should be clapping yourselves for being here. It's amazing to see so many faces, so many old friends. We could have sold this event, not that we've charged for it, 3 times over, by the way. So it's great to see you all, and it just shows the huge enthusiasm there is for our organisation. Now, we've got a number of stars that I want to mention very early on, of course, amongst an entire room of stars this is. But I want to thank the Lord Mayor, who's been nothing but a huge supporter of us. As you know, he sponsors our annual dinner here in the Mansion House. And Alastair, you've been nothing but a huge supporter of ours, even when you weren't Lord Mayor. So I really want to thank you very much for the warm hospitality of you and your team. Now, new Secretary General, she is here. She is with us, her first outing. Shirley, so wonderful to see you. Thank you so much for coming. And how important are the next however many years you've got in this job, but hopefully 8 at least, it is for... No, you're shaking your head. You don't want it. But seriously, we want you there for this length of time. But welcome, and we're so thrilled that you come as... I think this is your first major speech, so that's really wonderful for us and the Commonwealth. Ministers and governors and premiers, look at you all. You're absolutely brilliant for flying all this way to add lustre to an otherwise dull occasion. But you are really terrific for making the effort. And particularly, I want to reference our great friends from Cameroon, who not only are part sponsors of this event, but come in their force with their humour and their politeness and their immaculate dress and just their general friendship to us. So I want to thank you guys and girls very much for everything you've done. Please, a round of applause for them. They deserve it. Now, today and tomorrow are very special days for 2 of our real heroes of the Commonwealth Enterprise Investment team, and that is James Mwangi, who on Wednesday joins my Deputy Chairman as a freedom of the City of London, which has been granted by the Lord Mayor of London. And James, as you know, is not only Chairman of Equity Bank, but he's Chairman of CWEIC in Kenya, and we're incredibly grateful and proud for him and his family that he is going to get this freedom, which allows him to drive sheep over London Bridge, which we look forward, all of us will help him do that if he decides to do it. But particular major hero is Jumoke, who today will get his freedom of the City of London, Chairman of Zenith Bank, the main sponsors of this event, an absolute hero. And today, it's a wonderful celebration for not only him, but Zenith Bank, but the people of Nigeria, the recognition of his incredible achievements by the City of London. So, Alastair, thank you very much indeed for facilitating those 2 events. It just shows you, if you're a senior sponsor of CWEIC or you're a chairman of one of our, you could become a chairman of the City of London. So, you know, just a lot more money, please. What an opportunity today, by coincidence, gives us. We have free fall in the stock markets. We've got a total rearrangement of the tables of power and trade and business and relationships in the world, caused only in the last week. And we are now sitting in a room full of pan-international people who can seize this opportunity as a result of aggressive behavior by the biggest consumer market in the world, the United States. This, for the 56 Commonwealth countries, is a game changer of the highest order. It makes us all think, what do we do next? How do we cope with these incredible changes? And how do we rebuild our alliances? And it goes without saying, you're pushing on an open door, ministers, governments, business people, when you look at the Commonwealth. A third of the world's population, as you know, 56 countries, all speaking the same language, 20% cheaper to do business intra-Commonwealth. That negates a tariff. That's £10 for you, Hugo, because he's getting £10 for every time we mention tariffs. But that negates the T word. We don't want to give him 20 quid. That negates the T word in one fell swoop. 20% cheaper to do business within the Commonwealth. So that sets the scene for what I hope will be a fantastic couple of days. I know it'll be fantastic, I don't hope, because you're all here in the room. You're very experienced at making these events fantastic, and I'm so grateful to you all for sparing the time and making this event such a historic and interesting occasion. So without further ado, Alastair, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Secretary-General, Mr. President, Excellencies, my Lords, distinguished guests, it's a joy to see you here this morning. Thank you very much indeed for coming here to Mansion House. Mansion House is my official residence as the Lord Mayor of London. I am the 696th Lord Mayor of London. That's an office that dates back to 1189, so 836 years. And it's a wonderful, multifaceted role. It involves things like waking up on a Monday morning and finding 300 people in your house. But it's also well done to the CWEIC for choosing such an extraordinary moment for their conference. All sorts of things are happening, and goodness me, they could all be of great benefit to us here in the Commonwealth. It's my great privilege to lead the City of London Corporation, the governing body of the Square Mile, and during my term of office I serve as the global ambassador for the United Kingdom's financial, professional, maritime and legal services sector, a role that sees me travel about 100 days during the course of my term of office per year, and I visit many of the Commonwealth members during the course of that period. And in my first 150 days of this remarkable post, I've already met with superannuation funds in Brisbane, Melbourne and Sydney. I've met regulators, banks and investors in Mumbai, and just last week I was with pension funds and asset managers in Toronto. A reminder, if ever was needed, of the deep and varied patchwork of skills and expertise that exists across the Commonwealth nations. The City of London Corporation was proud to be a founding member of the Commonwealth Enterprise Investment Council over 10 years ago. And it's our great pleasure to host the summit here, right in the heart of the City of London this week. Also, what was just remarkable, having a conversation with the pension funds up in Canada, was just the opportunity that is being these dislocations in world trade it presents to us here in the United Kingdom, but also across the Commonwealth. They want to do business with people who are friendly with them, and goodness me, there's no greater friendship than with the United Kingdom and also with the Commonwealth countries. Conflict tests the resolve and durability of our international alliances, and I think with these turbulent supply chains and rapid development of emerging technologies, we are being forced to adapt with breakneck speed. Therefore, friendships along the lines of the Commonwealth are even more important. And at this time of economic uncertainty, no one can stand alone, and therefore to have this extraordinary relationship of 56 sovereign nations, large and small, old and new, to respond collectively and proactively to meet these extraordinary challenges, life is made much easier because of our relationships. We are united in this rich history, our shared values, our familial, legal and administrative systems. and of course our common language. And the Commonwealth not only is well placed to rise to these extraordinary challenges, but has a unique convening power and considerable global clout. As Jonathan has just mentioned, the Commonwealth, we account for a third of the world's population, 2.7 billion people. 60% are under the age of 30. And with 40% of the global workforce and over 1 billion middle-class consumers, our Commonwealth outranks the buying power of the European Union, China, and indeed, importantly to remember, the United States. You will know about here, during the course of the day today, about the Commonwealth advantage, and it will be referenced a lot over the next couple of days or so. And as mentioned, it gives us a 21% advantage when it comes to the costs of doing business, and I think that's something not to be sneezed at. For over 1,000 years, partnerships have been built on trade. It drives growth, nurtures jobs, and lifts people out of poverty in the most remarkably efficient manner. And this generation who lived through the Second World War will understand it remains the surest way to protect peace. Our family of nations with different strengths and in different industries have so much to learn, share and trade with one another. And here in the City of London, for example, we are the #1 financial centre in the world with preeminent expertise in areas like insurance, legal services and foreign exchange. What I've been saying to my friends abroad has been very simple, in the sense that I've said to the world, look, if you want to insure against catastrophe, do it in London. If you want to raise debt or raise equity, do it in London. If you want to fall out with your partners, sue them in London. It's a very, very simple equation. Therefore, if you're in Guyana or in Fiji, there's remarkable opportunities to do more business with this extraordinary organisation as our interlocutor. And as Lord Mayor, one of my key aims is to encourage businesses here in the United Kingdom to jump on planes, to bang on doors around the world, particularly in the extraordinary, exciting economies that make up our Commonwealth. And I'm just really, what I'm trying to do, going round the City of London, to our insurance companies, to our banks, to the law firms, to also the people involved in international trade, banging on their doors and saying, get out there, jump on a plane next week, go and see the remarkable opportunities that are available to you. You cannot build a global business by sitting at home and trying to do things through a Zoom call. It can help, but it cannot build those remarkable relationships that we need. And so therefore, we've got to get out and go to the extraordinary places that are represented by this extraordinary event. I hope over the next 2 days, the summit will serve as a useful stepping stone for the next Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting in Antigua and Barbuda, with its focus on international trade and economic innovation. And also I do hope that it will allow us all to build some remarkable relationships across our 56 Commonwealth states, and hope to ensure a safer, more prosperous and sustainable future. I really hope, though, that I'm always in awe of what Jonathan does in relation to the Commonwealth Enterprise and Investment Council. I think it is a remarkable organisation, and it's always these events are pulled together by his extraordinary team, but also with Jonathan and Hugo's incredible panache and joie de vivre, and I just think that makes life so much easier and allows us all to build relationships so much better. I do hope the next 2 days go extremely well. I look forward to seeing you during the course of this stay, and I do hope you'll enjoy your stay here at the Mansion House. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, Alastair. Oh, God, what's happened here? Right. Now, we're going to have a very interesting panel session, which I am going to chair, if I can get this microphone sorted out. We are very lucky to have the Chief Executive of Lloyds here. John, Neil, would you like to come up and take a pew? We're also very happy to have our friends from Qatar. Sheikha, will you come up and take a chair, please? We've got the Minister of Trade and Industry from Nigeria, Jumoke Oduwole. Here she is. This is a star-studded panel, it really is. And Kinyanjui, where are you? Here you are. There you are. I can see you sitting at the front. Sorry, Lee. come on up and take a chair. Actually, I'll have a chair as well. So Lee, you come and sit here. Can I persuade you to move over there? Thank you very much. Now, I've got a whole list of questions here, but actually I'm going to throw them out the window because I want to hear, first of all, John, starting with you, how these, no, he's standing listening. So Hugo, come and sit down over here because I don't like you standing and listening. How is the T word going to affect the global insurance market? And therefore, and Lloyd's and all those sort of things?
Well, sadly, it's not new. So if you imagine Lloyd's, for insurance business, we trade in over 200 countries around the world. Before the decisions in the US, there were 54 countries that imposed tariffs or restrictions or cross-border complications to trade. So in a funny sort of way, it's kind of not new. It's slightly frustrating that it's gone to the level it's gone at, but it's not new news for us. So it's something that we're quite used to working our way around and finding different solutions to try and get it right. So I'm sorry to say the concept of tariffs, and I just owe someone 10 quid, is not new.
And what about the state of Qatar? Good friends with, obviously, America, good friends with here. I'm not sure what a tariff he imposed on you.
10%, it's the 10%. Lowest, but I mean, most of our exports are in the LNG and the oil industry, so that's buffered in a sense, so we're good.
So you're relaxed and quite comfortable.
Yes, but I mean, global markets affect as well.
Yeah, because you've got investments all over the world.
Correct.
Yeah. And what about?
Well, I think like Qatar, good morning, everybody. Nigeria has 14%, but most of our exports to the US is on the oil and gas, and so that's covered by AGOA. We'll see what happens with AGOA when negotiations come up, and indeed, if it inures to that time. But we're more concerned with supporting our non-oil exports, particularly our small and medium-sized enterprises, and we're encouraging them to look at other markets, particularly African Continental Free Trade Area. Currently, Nigerian exports go to over 250 countries around the world. And so supporting them with market access and encouraging more global trade, I think that's the direction that we are pursuing.
Do you think you'll be creating closer, have you identified countries where you could immediately make closer and more direct compensatory relationships?
Oh, certainly. So we're not reacting, we're responding. And this response has started since the inception of this current administration of President Tinubu. So the diversification drive, we've been looking at old friends. We've also been pursuing new friends. So we have new friends in the Middle East. We have new friends like Qatar. We have relationships with Brazil, with India, with China. We also have very strong strategic relationships with the US. So it's trade. No permanent enemies, no permanent friends. Just trade.
And what about your great country of Kenya?
Thank you very much. First, I'm glad to be here and to be part of this important forum. Kenya got the lowest band of 10%. We are at the lowest, but also appreciate that the impact of some of these tariffs goes beyond just the two countries, the one imposing and the country, like in the case of Kenya, because global trade is interconnected, and investments also is driven by confidence across the global markets. So we anticipate that there will be a serious impact across all sectors. And I think the fears of recession becomes a very clear challenge, especially for third world countries. It is also important to note that as we look at Africa in the days to come, I think the issues of raw materials coming from the continent would also need to be looked at clearly, because as countries seek to industrialize, Africa holds the key because of the important rare earth minerals that are found in this region. So I think it's the race for countries to industrialize, including the big nations come, then Africa also needs to position itself in view of the new trade dynamics that are coming up. Thank you.
Thank you. How much of your trade is with America?
It's about the fourth biggest, mainly in the area of textiles. Much more could be done, but I think as a country we want to diversify and have more players into the market so that whenever you have one challenge such as we have today in tariffs, then the impact in the economy is minimized.
So what is the tariff he's imposed upon textiles?
10%.
10%, so it's not too bad.
Not too bad.
It'll hit some of the other textile manufacturing companies more. I've been advocating a Commonwealth trade agreement for quite a while now. By that, I have suggested that like-minded countries who want to create a free trade agreement within the Commonwealth could do that, and that countries, when they feel ready that they want to join it, can do it at their own speed. I think this may well get some more traction, and I'm looking at the Secretary General as we're at one on this. The African Free Trade Agreement has been an incredibly quick and successful agreement, not least because Shirley's involvement in Ghana, and it is headquartered in Ghana. What have been the benefits to Nigeria on that?
So the African Continental Free Trade Area, the biggest free trade area in the world, 1.3 billion people. The African market is $3.4 trillion economy. I think that pushing out non-oil exports has been of particularly advantage to small and medium-sized enterprises. So formalizing informal trade channels across the continent, value chains as well. So trade facilitation, working with the customs areas across the continent has made sure that the unique things about the continent and the unique things about the agreement, so for instance, it focuses on women and youth. So that has been very good to facilitate trade across borders in that area. And Africa is also the first region to have a digital framework, digital trade protocol, and 8 annexes that have been endorsed by the heads of state. Other regions across the world are still trying to tidy that up. So that's something that the Commonwealth can also look into. Digital trade, in fact, trade and services, the global economy is already about 50% trade and services. Most countries are leading with services. Nigeria's GDP is over 50% services. And so digital trade is where our youth are competitive, with a population of over 200 million people, 70% of which are youth. They lead with technology, so ICT, about 10% now of GDP. So those are, when you look for sustainability and to the future, and where we want to see security and prosperity and sustainability, those are some of the areas where the AFCFTA leads, and it's doing particularly well for the Nigerian economy.
So it's been a great success. What about in Kenya?
Thank you. I think on the issue of the free trade area across Africa, I think there lies much of the answer to the challenges that we continue to have. And noting that Africa's population is largely young population, education in most of our countries has also brought about a huge number of young people who are tech savvy, ready to work, and therefore it means Africa now must be able to harness its position, take advantage of this young population, and also work really. And in Kenya in particular, we have also majored in the area of service. The fiber optic is almost to every village you can imagine, and therefore we are able to leverage on some of these technologies right up to the village, and that makes a very huge difference. On infrastructure, also there's need for connectivity within the continent so that goods and services can find their way across the continent. If you look at the current numbers at about 14% intra-Africa trade, then that simply means we have a big problem which we must overlook. So some of the solutions that we want to get must be from within the continent, and we must encourage our people to trade together, look for harmonized standards, look for ways and means of ensuring that if you want to raise capital, we also have institutions within Africa, including development banks like the Africa Development Bank, that can be able to finance infrastructure, especially in areas that are of trade facilitation in nature. And I think through some of these, including the trading blocks like the East African Community, COMESA, and all the others, we can be strengthened so that we can have better trading opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you. Of course, Qatar are now investing quite heavily in the African region. Not least Rwanda, you're building a new international airport for them. Please describe to us some of the major investments you've got in Africa and how easy or difficult it is to do business there.
So first of all, we didn't say thank you for involving Qatar in the Commonwealth discussions. We're not a member, but Qatar is a global investor, is a trusted diplomatic partner, and it works bilaterally. It has strong bilateral relationships with a lot of the Commonwealth member states. And investments is one avenue that Qatar engages with those members, but also the development agenda is very important. And Qatar, as a small state, has worked very closely with other nation states to diversify its supply chains, to diversify its economy, to diversify its investments, and so on. So Africa is not the only region that Qatar invests in, but Qatar has a long-term vision when it comes to investments through our sovereign wealth fund, the Qatar Investment Authority. I cannot speak on their behalf. I don't know all their investments because they're not public, but we do work on a lot of development investments in Africa. Those include airports, those include a lot of factories and manufacturing investments as well that create jobs for the young populations in Africa, and this is more on the development agenda. There's the Education Above All Foundation, which is an indirect investment, mostly to develop talents, upskilling, reskilling, and to ensure that there's a ready workforce and reducing youth unemployment as well, which is an issue in most of African states, but also in the Arab world, which is one of the highest in the world. So that's that. But when it comes to investments, I mean, most of the sovereign wealth fund investors around the world, they're patient investments. So they invest in long-term returns, and most of them are in new sectors and economies. And Africa has a lot of opportunity when it comes to development and diversifying as well, and positioning itself as a leader, as a continent. So that's why Qatar is investing. But Somalia is a member state of the Commonwealth, and Qatar does a lot of development work as well when it comes to humanitarian aid and development.
John, from an insurance point of view, having been in the business myself quite a long time, and before you were born, I think, but I used to deal with Nikon, the Nigerian national insurance company. I used to deal with the national insurance companies of many African countries. That's now loosened a bit, but are you finding it, are brokers and underwriters finding it frustrating dealing in Africa from an insurance point of view, given that there isn't always the open access?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I'll turn the conversation to where we're sat today, but it's where everyone's going. The world is so interconnected in every way. We've got to create solutions for freedom of trade. And I'll give you a silly example. You know, we were sat at Lloyd's and, you know, Russia thinks it's a smart idea to invade the Ukraine. Everyone's worried about the transportation of grain. It's not grain, it's fertilizer. 40% of the world's fertilizer comes out of either Russia or the Ukraine. So to ensure the world doesn't starve, you need to move the fertilizer. So it just shows you how interconnected it is. Turn the conversation around to where we're sat today and the 2 days we've got ahead of ourselves. We've got a huge advantage in the Commonwealth. Common language, common law, common institutional thinking. So I think the opportunity for us, where we haven't got the barriers, we haven't got the restrictions to encourage open trade, is massive. And I think it's just a bit of a reminder over the past few days of crystallizing that opportunity really, and just getting a little bit more focus outside of the obvious trading relationships that exist. You know, when you were asking the question earlier on about how much do you do with the US, 50% of the world's money, 50% of the world's money in finance moves from the US. Banking, investment banking, insurance. That's the scale. So we're always thinking about it. But it's a good opportunity in the next 2 days just to remind us where the world sits and where the opportunities and the responsibilities amongst the Commonwealth sit for us to do business. So I think it's fantastic that we're sat here having the conversations that we're having today and tomorrow. Picking up on one of my favourite subjects, the youth of Africa.
it's very easy to say, you know, we're moving them into digital areas and tech, but actually tech doesn't require the same manpower or woman power that many other industries do. So where do you see, you know, I mean, Nigeria, this huge population now, what do you see happening to the youth in real terms?
I see them having productive jobs, so tech is an enabler. There's no way to brush it off. When you talk about outsourcing of businesses, other regions across the world need a lot cheaper outsourcing, so we're making ourselves an outsourced business hub. India has done it. Other regions have done it, and we have a good English-speaking population. They're entrepreneurial, young, on a good time zone. So that's one of the areas they can earn foreign exchange and stay home. They don't need to leave home. When you talk about entrepreneurship, I struggle to find a population more entrepreneurial than Nigerians. Nigerian youth are extremely dynamic. So they participate in light manufacturing, they participate in all sorts of services, agribusiness, very agrarian population. So I spoke about tech as one example because it's a leapfrogger and it has less of an infrastructure footprint, but by no means is it the only area in which we're focusing on for creating productive jobs for Nigerian youth. So there's an array of several types of job opportunities, vocational skills, apart from digital footprints, agribusiness, light manufacturing. There's just several opportunities because we do have to keep solving our youth unemployment challenge. And we don't just want to give them any jobs, we want to give them productive jobs with good wages and keep them. It speaks to insecurity, it speaks to shared prosperity, it speaks to sustainability. Education is also key for that, healthcare. So it's the entire ecosystem, and our president is committed to an 8-point agenda that is going to deliver significantly for Nigerian youth.
What is the 8-point agenda for the benefit of people in this region?
It's right across from security, going to human capital, going to our energy. We need to have an infrastructure blueprint rolled out, speaking to diversification of the economy. For my portfolio, non-oil exports is key. I'm also an enabler for other ministries, departments, and agencies in terms of moving their manufacturing footprint, global chains, value chains, market access. So working very aggressively across the continent, Nigeria's digital trade champion, co-digital trade champion actually with Kenya and South Africa. What that means is not just for Nigeria, but for the continent at large. How do you have digital public infrastructure which enables the entire economy, not just Nigeria, but Africa.
Cross-border.
Exactly. So things like that. I'm working on national single window projects, working on just the enablers for goods and services to travel freely. So that's a whole gamut of the 8-point agenda.
And Nigeria is expected to have a bigger population than America, the United States of America, by 2030. So it's a huge potential market and a huge population to deal with. What about in Kenya?
Oh, thank you. I think much like the rest of Africa, the youth population is the biggest and still growing. And that means if the future of the world is with the youth, then the future is actually in Africa. This is where you have the hugest chunk of the population and also growing in that respect. However, there are certain things that we note with that particular group. Today, in much of our universities, the courses that are most popular with the young people are actually tech courses. So out of every 10, about 4 of them will be taking tech-related courses. So we see a huge transition to technology, which I think is very good for Africa, and therefore as governments, our greatest challenge is to provide the infrastructure so that the knowledge they acquire can now be used for nation building. At times when that knowledge is not matched with opportunities within the economy, then we have a big mismatch. And I think for Kenya, I want to confirm that we are among the few countries with the highest penetration of youth in ICT, and that's really a huge opportunity. It also provides opportunities in innovation, and I'm happy to note that Kenya is leading in the area of financial inclusion, mobile money transfer, and others. And I think much of this has also come because of participation of young people and allowing an environment that includes innovation, especially even at the school level. It has also allowed us to have an economy that is diversified, where through business processes that are outsourced, you can be able to have a small village in one part of the country working for a company in the US, in Europe, or any other part of the world, and therefore you enhance a 24-hour economy as really this. So in terms of employment, you now have a 24-hour clock. We also see another important aspect is that in terms of alignment to the economy, that the skills that we teach our young people and alignment to what is most important in the economy is an area that we also would want to work, because there are few engineers, for example, if compared to 10 years ago, yet we realize that if a country wants to industrialize, areas like engineering becomes very critical. And I think that's one of the areas we need to work on and ensure that there's also connectivity and understanding of how the youth can participate and get included in nation building. Thank you.
John, the tech revolution has been incredible. Many would say that Lloyd's and the insurance industry have been quite slow to respond to, I'm glad you're nodding your head, to the tech revolution. Why is that, and what was the sort of blockage to, presumably, the demands you were trying to put on people?
Yeah, I think it's, I think we would agree. We were a bit slower than most, but I think we're doing our level best to catch up. I think when we talk about the subjects that we're talking about, AI and Gen AI, it's the latest digital transformation we're seeing. It's dramatic. And I think it's important in the context of the societies that we're talking about. You know, when you think about the challenges for government, let alone anyone else at a digital level, you've got a population that's going to live longer. You've got personal taxation systems that are going to have to change. If people are going to have to work 10 or 15 years longer, which I think they probably are, then personal tax will have to change. Healthcare systems have got to change. So there is an awful lot of transition outside of climate, which I'm sure we'll end up talking about a little bit, that needs to happen. And technology should enable that. I don't think it's a threat. I don't think it's a threat to jobs. I think it's an opportunity to allow those major activities which governments and the private sector need to co-sponsor to change can actually happen. So I think a bit slow to get there, but I think we are getting there.
Why don't you think AI is a threat to jobs?
No. I don't think it is. You know, so you were saying, you know, older than me. I'm sad to say I'm a little bit old. There weren't any computers when I started work.
God,
so
that old, are you?
So, you know, the threat was computers are going to take jobs. They're not taking jobs away. They enable us to fulfill the expectations of society at a pace that is necessary. So I think AI is a big digital transformation. That's what it is. And we need it. We societally need it to support the growing economies in the world, to support the growing populations, and to support some of the infrastructure transitions and related transitions we must go through. So I think it's a huge opportunity.
And you and John and I should have a chat, and we'll explain to you what it was like working without computers. But
I was that generation as well.
You're kidding. I'll make the jokes if you don't mind. Tell us about the tech revolution in Qatar and the Middle East.
I mean, in 2016, Qatar went through an experience where it had to really change how it does business and how it deals with other countries. Then COVID came, and Qatar was able to finance that digitization across government entities. So everything in Qatar is quite advanced, to be honest. We recently launched our AI strategy as well, which is a $2.1 billion fund to invest in AI technologies. in the infrastructure in Qatar to attract global players, to utilize Qatar as a hub to export that know-how to other regional markets. And you know, when it comes to technologies, the unique thing about technologies is that you don't need to be in every single country as foreign direct investment. You can operate out of one trusted partner. And that's what Qatar is trying to be. Qatar has always been a trusted partner when it comes to business. It follows English common law, which is a legal framework that a lot of Commonwealth member states operate with. It has a trusted business environment, a world-class legal, regulatory, tax, and business environment. It's one of the easiest countries to do business. It is a small market, yes, but the beauty about small markets is the ability for them to act as hubs to help companies propel to other regional markets. The infrastructure, the connectivity, the airports that connect to 180 direct destinations, the world-class education systems in Qatar, the access to human capital, are all basically unique to giving an environment that really attracts those technologies. So we've launched, with the UK, an AI commission with the FCDO to basically study or identify areas of collaboration that Qatar and the UK can work with. We're launching that report during the strategic dialogue at the end of the month. Next week, this is an open invitation. If you are working in the AI space, if you are a company in the UK and you want to understand what Qatar is offering, how we can understand as well what are the AI needs when it comes to companies and why would you move to other markets, please talk to us. We're represented here by several entities, the Commercial Attaché, the Free Zones Authority, which basically houses the infrastructure for AI in Doha, the data centers, and so on. Qatar is the second largest exporter of LNG, liquefied natural gas, in the world, so access to energy, which actually powers AI and the infrastructure required for it and computing power and so on, is available and cheap. And we already have countries that are utilizing our data centers in Doha. But not just that, we are looking to attract innovation to Qatar. And this is where working with some of the member states that are represented here is important, both from the private and public sector, because PPPs are important, and Qatar has a lot of projects around that.
Well, I think you'll be inundated if you're not careful.
It's okay. Put your hands up, the Qatari delegation.
Yes. Switching now to climate change, which is the other major thing that affects our generation. Kenya, of course, has moved very swiftly to be less reliant on fossil fuels. In fact, I think in 5 years' time, you'll be 100% self-sufficient on modern sustainable technology. Is that right?
Yeah, that is indeed correct.
And how have you got there?
Yeah. So I think it's good first to confirm that Kenya is among the leading nations in geothermal energy. And I think we pride ourselves both in Africa and globally as key players. And I think in our efforts to diversify that, we also plan to add more exploration in areas that were previously not there. And in the next 2 years, it will expand by over 50%. Most significantly is the enabling laws to ensure that all farms are climate smart. And I think this has gone on to ensure that regular audits are done and that reports are done to make sure that we align ourselves. In the area of agriculture, we are currently trying to work with companies, including here in the UK, so that part of the shipment of our produce, like in flowers and vegetables, is actually by sea, which actually is less carbon in terms of emissions. And I think this will go a long way in making sure that our produce is also aligned to the lower carbon emissions. Farms, especially agricultural farms in Kenya, are also required to do energy audits, and I think this also ensures that there's conformity and that at any one time a report is given so that even when you are buying a product from Kenya, especially in the agricultural sector, you can be able to confirm the carbon footprint of that particular company. And I think through that, we have made tremendous progress. On the area of solar, being in the tropics, I think is an area we are working very closely. and that has also presented a huge opportunity, especially to reduce dependency on thermal energies from generators and so on. And I think that also will help us in terms of making climate smart. One big challenge that still remains is on the issue of mitigation against climate change effects, especially due to flooding in certain sections of the country, arising to serious climate degradation that has often led to human interruptions in settlement and so on. And therefore, to that extent, the country has come up with a mitigation plan that also helps us to ensure that when the effects are negative, we have a way of mitigating against such effects. Thank you.
John, this is a subject quite close to your heart, isn't it? Climate change.
Yeah.
What are the steps that your organisation, and in fact, I think we can tell everyone that you're moving on from Lloyd's to an even bigger organisation, Aon, which has global outreach. I mean, what are the steps, what are the key issues for you in the insurance world? Obviously, I know we've got a great delegation from Cayman who are ducking their heads once a year when the windstorm comes through. But talk us through the issues.
Yeah, I mean, it's an incredible subject, isn't it? And we'll part wind for a moment. The frustration we would have in insurance, and we've got a better job, I think, to do in explaining how we can help, is flood and fire. We know when flood and fire is going to happen. We know where it's going to happen. So when you think about the complexity, there's a lot we can do to mitigate, manage, and actually insure when push comes to shove. And the numbers are startling. You know, if you grow up in insurance, you know, other than the King, who was somewhat ahead of us, you know, we were writing about climate change in the 80s and recognizing the complications that are there. In the last 20 years, the insured losses from climate change have doubled to 130 billion a year. We think in the next decade, it will double again. I mean, that's the extent of the cost that's there. And there are things that we can do, and I'll give you two very quick examples, one of which has actually been working with the International Red Cross of trying to get pre-accident disaster funding available. So the Red Cross have 20 million Swiss francs available. How do we get that money released? How do we release that money effectively? And it's worked. It worked in Nigeria, it worked in Algeria, worked for the typhoon in Vietnam. And dare I say it, last year in October, the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting, we actually launched our Global Disaster Resilience Vehicle in partnership with the UN, starting with the Pacific. We want to expand it to the Caribbean, to Africa, and ultimately to Asia. How do we get the right partnership working where natural peril insurance can be enforced for the communities and for businesses that operate in those geographies? So the advantage, and I think we've got a job to do to better explain what we know, is we kind of do understand the climate-related risks. Wind is the hardest to understand, but the rest we do understand. And I think there are some partnerships that we can work through, particularly with government. So I should dangerously stick our hands up and say, if there are conversations to be had, we should have them.
Yeah. Of course, you two are both fossil fuel producing nations, and your economies are very heavily dependent upon them. How do you manage the need for climate change changes to the way that you do things with your fossil fuel economic reliance?
So I think everybody is well versed in Nigeria's call for climate justice. So that's the first thing, and we all know the arguments around that. But that being said, we're diversifying, we're developing clean energy expertise. We're leaders in natural gas. It's very natural gas, so we consider that a clean energy. But a lot of solar projects, less so with wind, but a lot of solar projects and alternative energy sources growing within the country. I look at it as an investment opportunity. It's time to diversify our energy mix. So it's one of the areas where we're calling for investment opportunities in the country. So that's the business case that I look at it from. And it's going quite well. It's one of the areas where investments are coming into the country. We have here two governors from two states, Lagos and Enugu from Nigeria, that you'll be hearing from. And you hear some of the investment opportunities and projects that are going on around the country. And so that's, I think, the way that the world should look at it, and how we should go about addressing this challenge.
So for Qatar, we're a leader in LNG. It's the cleanest form of fossil fuel. The world needs that energy, so we continue to provide it. But we are also, we take the climate issue very seriously. We're one of the first signatories with the Paris Agreement. We've launched funds to basically solve the issue of green technologies and investing in them and finding solutions that would reduce carbon dioxide emissions for the LNG industry in Qatar. Qatar has one of the largest blue hydrogen plants in the world, launched before the World Cup. Qatar continues to invest in smaller island states that are affected by climate change through the Qatar Fund for Development.
Like which nations?
I don't remember them off of my mind, but, but you can check them out online.
Some of the smaller island states here, you can come and register.
And we already do it. I mean, when typhoons happen in the US and Asia, Qatar is one of the first countries that actually jumps in and tries to help through its development and humanitarian aid agenda as well. So yes, I mean, it's a tricky question. The world still requires that energy. We still don't have the capability to move fully towards green energies around the world. Less developed countries require cheaper forms of fossil fuel as well. And yeah, we continue to offer it. But it is the cleanest form, so we're good.
Well, it's the transition, isn't it?
It is.
And already, I think in the UK, Prime Minister Starmer is changing the rules for EV cars to ease the transition. We're very sorry Minister Reynolds is not with us today, but for obvious reasons he's fighting the good fight. He's Minister of, in the Department of Business and Trade, and as you can imagine he's got his hands full, but he sadly had to cancel last minute. But how lucky we are to have had the four of you to answer these searching questions. And please, feel free, all of you, to buttonhole them. They're around, and they've got a lot of great story to tell. And thank you so much, all four of you, for sparing the time this morning. Well done. Come on. Well done, thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Lord Marland. Excellent way to get the day going. And we're going to continue on a high note with the keynote address of the morning. And it is my great pleasure and privilege to invite to the stage to deliver the keynote address His Excellency Dr. Hussein Ali Mwinyi, who is the President of Zanzibar. Your Excellency.
Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Allow me to begin by sharing a brief story from Zanzibar. Just 3 years ago, in a small fishing village on our coast, generations of families had relied on traditional fishing methods with declining catches and limited economic prospects. Today, that same village hosts a thriving seaweed farm, a small fish processing facility, and has integrated into our growing ecotourism network. Their story mirrors Zanzibar's vision, transforming our relationship with the ocean from simple extraction to sustainable prosperity. I share this because it embodies what brings us together today: the search for transformative opportunities within our shared Commonwealth family. I wish to express my sincere appreciation to our host, Lord Marland of Odstock, Chairman of the Commonwealth Enterprise and Investment Council, for the excellent hospitality and organization at this Commonwealth Trade and Investment Summit 2025. The considerable turnout today is a true testament to our effort in keeping the links and relations between Commonwealth members alive and flourishing. I look forward to discussion and concrete solutions that I'm confident will emerge from this gathering. This is my first visit to the United Kingdom since I assumed the presidency of Zanzibar, and the degree of hospitality my delegation and I have received since our arrival reflects the long-standing excellent relations between Tanzania and the UK, as well as with the Commonwealth at large. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, one of the key resolutions that emerged from the CHOGM 2024 in Samoa was the need for all Commonwealth members to take concrete actions to address global challenges while simultaneously creating wealth, prosperity, and inclusive growth. The importance of our oceans, forests, and biodiversity, and the potential to increase intra-Commonwealth trade was particularly emphasized. These resolutions inspire me and provide assurance that our best collective days lie ahead. However, we must acknowledge that we stand at a crucial crossroads. In recent years, we have witnessed several challenges, and I would like to mention a few. A significant shift in global power dynamics and trade alliances, growing resource competition manifesting in trade protection measures, and labor market disruption caused by technological change and demographic shifts. The impact of these challenges fall heavily on our youth. With nearly 60% of the Commonwealth population under 30 years of age, representing over 1.5 billion young people, the urgency of addressing youth unemployment has never been greater. In Zanzibar alone, young people comprise over 35% of our population, with many seeking meaningful economic activities. However, within these challenges lie extraordinary opportunities, particularly when we leverage what I call the Commonwealth advantage, our unique community of diverse nations united by shared values and systems. The Commonwealth represents 1/3 of humanity, spans 6 continents, and includes economies at every stage of development. This diversity is our strength. Together, we account for over 20% of global trade, and our similarities in legal systems, language, and institutions reduce trade costs between Commonwealth countries by an estimated 19% compared to other trading partners. We must now transform these advantages into practical benefits for our citizens through 3 strategic action areas. 1, intensifying intra-Commonwealth trade. Currently at $700 billion annually, experts suggest this could reach $1 trillion by 2030 with targeted policies and investments. To achieve this, we should establish a Commonwealth Trade Facilitation Fund that addresses non-tariff barriers and streamlines customs procedures. We should also create a digital marketplace specifically for Commonwealth businesses to connect across borders, and also develop supply chain resilient initiatives that prioritizes Commonwealth sources for critical goods and services. Secondly, we have to leverage preferential trade arrangements such as the UK's Developing Countries Trading Scheme, which offers zero tariff access for thousands of products from Commonwealth developing nations. We must establish technical assistant teams to help exporters from smaller Commonwealth nations navigate certification and compliance requirements. We have to share best practice from countries that have successfully utilized these schemes, like Bangladesh garments industry, which has seen a 15% export increase through preferential access, and also develop Commonwealth-wide quality standards that streamline export certification while maintaining high standards. And thirdly, we have to create innovation hubs focused on digital skills and sustainable technologies that address our shared challenges. These should connect businesses and researchers across Commonwealth nations through both physical centers and virtual platforms. They should also provide specialized funding for innovations that address Commonwealth-specific challenges, particularly for small island developing states, and they should also offer technical skills training programs with mutual recognition of qualification across member states. Allow me to share Zanzibar's journey towards harnessing the blue economy potential. In 2020, we launched the Zanzibar Development Vision 2050, aiming to transform our island into an upper middle income economy by 2050, supported by our blue economy policy of 2022. This isn't merely an economic strategy, but a comprehensive approach to sustainable development that recognizes our unique island context. Currently, blue economy activities contribute approximately 42% of Zanzibar's GDP and employ around 43% of our workforce. Yet, we've only scratched the surface of possibilities. Our Blue Economy Implementation Strategy, introduced in October 2022, has aligned government, private sector, civil society, and communities towards coordinated action. Let me highlight a concrete example. In our marine protected area of Menai Bay, we have established a model that combines conservation with economic opportunity. Local communities now manage sustainable seaweed farms and operate ecotourism initiatives that increased household income by 35% while enhancing biodiversity. This model is being replicated across Zanzibar. Aligned with the UN Sustainable Development Goal 14 and AU Agenda 2063, we are scaling up value addition in fisheries and aquaculture, expanding green maritime infrastructure, promoting ecotourism, and investing in coastal resilience, marine conservation, and renewable energy. The Commonwealth's support in facilitating access to blended finance mechanisms is critical to de-risking investment and attracting climate-resilient capital. Additionally, upgrading commercial and fishing ports will enhance Zanzibar's investment appeal and reduce business costs through improved logistics. The success of our blue economy and other initiatives depends critically on our youth. Young people are not just beneficiaries of our policies, but essential partners in implementation. In Zanzibar, we have established the Blue Economy Innovation Hub, where young entrepreneurs receive technical training, mentorship, and seed funding to develop ocean-based businesses. Since 2023, this program has supported over 300 youth-led enterprises with a 70% success rate. I believe the Commonwealth is uniquely positioned to scale such initiatives. I call upon all of us to work together to equip our young people with the technical skills necessary to thrive in the digital age and blue economy. This includes expanding Commonwealth scholarships, business mentoring networks, and digital skills programs. Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, as we stand at this critical moment in our shared history, the path forward is clear. The challenges we face, climate vulnerability, youth unemployment, economic uncertainty, are not merely obstacles, but invitation to reimagine our future together. I extend a personal invitation to each one of you to visit Zanzibar and witness our blue economy transformation firsthand. Our doors are open to investors and partners interested in sustainable aquaculture, renewable marine energy, ecotourism, and port development. To conclude my remarks, I'd like to propose 3 concrete actions. First, let us establish a Commonwealth Blue Economy Network with dedicated funding and expertise to accelerate sustainable ocean-based development across our member states. Second, let us launch a Commonwealth Youth Skill Initiative that will equip 1 million young people with blue and green economy skills by 2030. And third, let us commit to increasing intra-Commonwealth trade by 50% within 5 years through targeted reduction of non-tariff barriers and increased investment in trade infrastructure. The Commonwealth has always been more than a collection of nations. We are a family bound by shared history, values, and aspirations. Our diversity is not a weakness, but our greatest strength. When the fishing communities in Zanzibar share knowledge with coastal villages in Fiji, when entrepreneurs in London partner with innovators in Lagos, when the challenges of small island states inform the policies of larger members, this is when the true power of our Commonwealth manifests. Let us leave London today not just with inspiring words, but with unshakable resolve to forge partnerships that will create prosperity for our people while safeguarding our planet for generations to come. Together, as a Commonwealth family, our collective potential is limitless and our shared future is ours to create. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Your Excellency, not least for gracing us with your presence and your first visit to the United Kingdom. So we're particularly honored. And for the very clear and strong message, the world is at a crossroads. There are plenty of challenges, but there are also opportunities. And of course, your very strong and clear call to action, words that I'm sure will resonate with everyone in this room today. We have one more speaker for the morning session, and I hope I don't get into trouble by saying we might have saved the best for last. No offense to Lord Marland. We have with us, as was already pointed out earlier today, the Honourable Shirley Ayoko Botchway, the Secretary General of the Commonwealth. I've been told this is your first public speech as Secretary General of the Commonwealth, so we're particularly honoured to have the opportunity to listen to you this morning. Please, the stage is yours.
Hello, everybody. Lord Marland, Excellency Dr. Hussein Ali Mwinyi, Honorable Ministers, Excellencies, distinguished delegates. It is a privilege to join you here at the 2025 Commonwealth Trade and Investment Summit in the magnificent surroundings of Mansion House. And the fact that I have the honor of delivering My first external address as Secretary General here is no coincidence. I'm here because trade is a central priority for the Commonwealth under my leadership. I want trade and investment to be at the heart of the Commonwealth's renewal. And I want to work with each of you to maximize its value to our investors, our enterprises, and our citizens who live across the Commonwealth in order to build resilient economies. We meet at a moment of great disruption and uncertainty. The sweeping tariffs, I owe you £10, implemented last week, shook markets around the world. Some target Commonwealth countries directly. All of us are affected. This is very far from business as usual. And business as usual wasn't working for the Commonwealth. It underlines why Commonwealth cooperation on trade has never been more urgent or more valuable. Because in a time of fragmentation, we offer connection. Amid uncertainty, we offer trust. When others raise barriers, we build bridges. Today, trade among Commonwealth countries is 21% cheaper. We invest more in one another than ever before. We share legal systems, language, and long-standing relationships. This is our Commonwealth trade advantage. But it must become a Commonwealth trade opportunity for everyone. As Secretary General, my approach is clear. Trade must be inclusive, innovative, and investable. Inclusive by ensuring that all Commonwealth nations, especially small states, landlocked countries, and underrepresented businesses are part of our larger Commonwealth market. We collectively benefit from a market size for 2.7 billion people and position all our member countries and businesses to participate meaningfully in global markets. Innovative by embracing digital trade, harmonizing regulation, and supporting entrepreneurs, particularly women and young people, to drive the economy of tomorrow. Investable by strengthening partnerships, unlocking blended finance, and channeling capital to where it is needed most to bring the greatest impact to all of us. This is more than a vision. It is a work program which will become a central priority for the Commonwealth under my leadership. And I'm committed to working with all of you to unlock real progress. We will listen, we will innovate, we will collaborate, and together we will place trade, investment, and economic resilience at the heart of Commonwealth's agenda with one simple goal: to ensure that every Commonwealth citizen in every Commonwealth country, regardless of geography or GDP, can see the value of our cooperation in their daily lives. So today, at this milestone Trade and Investment Summit, I am firing the starting gun on the race to the next Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting in Antigua and Barbuda next year. It is a race that will run through the Commonwealth Business Summit, which will take place in Namibia this June. For the first time, ministers, CEOs, SMEs, and development institutions will sit side by side to develop real practical solutions. We intend to tackle trade barriers, strengthen digital inclusion, and support small businesses, and open investment opportunities in key sectors,
from infrastructure and agriculture to energy transition and e-commerce. That is how we bridge the gap between policy and action, and this is how we will deliver. So today's summit is a milestone, not a destination, because every Commonwealth citizen in every region deserves to see the impact of our cooperation in their lives. This is our moment. The Commonwealth today is a network of purpose and promise, a platform for progress, a home for ambition. And at a time when trust is low, when multilateralism is fraying, and when too many are left out, our Commonwealth stands in bold relief as the place to do global business. I can feel your energy, and I can sense your appetite. I share it. And the truth is this: no other organization combines what we do, the shared values, the global reach, the deep trust. So I say to you, the only barrier to success is the fear of thinking big. We can and we must turn our shared values into shared prosperity. I hope you can seize this moment together. Thank you so much.
And thank you, Madam Secretary General. What can I say except the race is on? Well and truly, I think. Well, I think we'll leave it there. That concludes the morning session. We now have a networking break, so get some coffee, tea, and do a bit of networking. Next plenary kicks off in here at 12 noon sharp. Thank you so much.